Welcome back to Fixing My Faith. My name is Vern Hool and I'll be your host for the next few minutes. So today we have an interesting program. We'll be starting out with a few scriptures, as we normally do, but then we'll take a look at the naked Jehovah's Witness court case and where it's from, and then we'll look at the CTV News, a very credible news agency here in Canada, on this hilarious 3 Jehovah's Witnesses fled home naked over fear that Armageddon was coming. And then last but not least, we'll take a look at some JW news. And the governing body members have now left, no longer a governing body member, and then we will sing him a song. So stay tuned for the whole program. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is take a look at a few scriptures. The first scripture is from Galatians 6, and this is from the Jehovah's Witness website, from their Bible. And it says in verse 7, "Do not be misled. God is not one to be mocked. For whatever a person is sowing, this he will also reap." So in both of the articles today, we'll see that scripture coming true. And it says, "Because the one sowing with a view to his flesh will reap corruption from his flesh, but the one sowing with a view to the Spirit will reap everlasting life from the Spirit." And so the Jehovah's Witness Bible actually talks about what's happening in today's news, or what we're going to bring out in the news today. Now, the next scripture is from Jehovah's Witness Bible, Luke chapter 12 and verse 2. And I use this scripture quite a bit. It says, "But there is nothing carefully concealed that will not be revealed, and nothing secret that will not become known. Therefore, whatever you say in the darkness will be heard in the light, and what you whisper in private rooms will be preached from the housetops." So the Bible itself talks about hiding things and what happens. Jesus even went on to say, "You will reap what you sow." So whatever we're putting out comes back. If you want to talk about karma, karma is the same thing. It's the same as what Jesus talked about. We reap what we have sown. And in these cases, there's a time and a place for everything. So we see that we're in a time of revealing. And guess what? Today's news, it's right in my backyard. So the naked Jehovah's Witness. So this is kind of old news, but for some of you, it may be new news, and perhaps you haven't heard the results of the court case. Perhaps you heard the original news. Well, here's the rest of the story. So stay tuned. It's in my backyard here in Canada. Backyard in Canada here. Now, if we zoom in to where it's from here, this is where I was raised and born, and I became a Jehovah's Witness here in this little town of Red Deer. I got baptized, and I moved around different congregations, and I spent a lot of years, the last part of my term as a Jehovah's Witness, I spent in this area, Edmonton, Alberta. And this incident took place in Leduc. That's where it was trialed, in the Leduc court system. And it took place in the Nisku area. Now, I know all the people involved, of course, but due to a ban on publicity, we can't talk a whole lot about it because there is minors involved. And so we just talk in briefities. But I can mention a little bit about my story. And I spent 30 years as a Jehovah's Witness. And I spent the last term as a regular pioneer working with a lot of these people. And a lot of these people in the article had assembly parts, many assembly parts, and looked very up on in the community, in the Jehovah's Witness community. There's about 45 kingdom halls in the surrounding area. And so it's a big Jehovah's Witness community. Now, this event happened a few years back, and it hit all of the headlines all over the world if you Google it, and all over the world. It was big news. It's not the news Jehovah's Witnesses want, not that kind of news. But here it is. If you haven't heard about it, it's the naked kidnappers tried to save neighbors from Armageddon. Okay, we'll get piped up for this one. So here it is. There's a picture of it. This is the only picture. There's one other picture, and it's this one. And it's this BMW that hit the ditch here finally. But we're going to read it from the CTV News. And here it is. When a group of naked kidnappers forced 3 people out of their Leduc County home last year, it was to save them from the end of the world. That and other details about the 2017 case have emerged following the kidnappers' appearances in Leduc Provincial Court last week. Previously, the father of the teens involved suggested the accused had unknowingly drunk halogenic tea. An agreed statement of facts submitted in the court last week said that alcohol and drugs were not factors, nor were there any other mention of the tea. So the tea was mentioned in the first 2017 when I read that as well. So instead, the court papers detailed a family visit that spiraled when the relatives thought Armageddon had arrived. One of the women had taken her daughters to visit her nephew and his wife at the home near Leduc on November 2nd. All 5 are Jehovah's Witnesses. Over the next 3 days of their stay, the court documents says they didn't leave the house and barely ate. One of the teenagers recalled watching movies, but also hearing screaming and banging and seeing ashes in the air. Some of the 5 hid because they believed that they were in danger, either from bad or wicked people outside or from demons, says a document. So if you know anything about Jehovah's Witnesses, they believe everything is demonized. Fortunately, I left the organization in 2012, so I left well before this event happened. But yes, everything is demonized. So it goes on to say, according to the papers, the group believed they had witnessed the Great Tribulation, a sign in Christian theology of the end of the world, and that Armageddon was November 6th. And this is a result of a lot of the programming folks, because being a Jehovah's Witness myself for 30 years and working my way out, it takes a lot of work on programming. And after 30 years for myself, the inculcation and the programming about the last days, about Armageddon, about everyone being wicked, it's very strong. It's a very strong spell or a very strong trance that many of the people are under. And it's no wonder that we hear these people going kind of crazy, about Armageddon and the Great Tribulation. And these are very upstanding people in the Jehovah's Witness community and in the business community too. They're very upstanding. But this is what the cult programming does. Now we have a petition on the end of this, so we invite everyone to look at it regarding helping the communities with these cults and some of these programmings about discrimination, because that's another issue. So the article talks about they rushed to find safety and to rescue a neighboring family. 4 who were naked were changing, but they had to leave right away because it was unsafe, so they left without clothes, the document says. At a neighboring residence, a group forced a man, his adult daughter, and her 6-week-old son out of the house without shoes. The man was put into the trunk of the car, and ordered to chant, "Jehovah, Jehovah, Jehovah," 10 times. His daughter and grandchild were put in the back seat of the BMW SUV with the teen girls, who sat naked under a blanket. And the document says that those in the vehicle also chanted, "Jehovah, Jehovah," while the SUV sped through Nisku. So because the trunk hadn't latched properly, the man was able to climb out of the vehicle once it slowed down. And the woman escaped with her baby after getting her hand slammed in the SUV's door. The 3 were helped by a passing truck. However, the document says that the group of kidnappers then rammed the truck from behind, throwing the woman and her baby into the dash. They were not injured. The SUV ended up in the ditch, and that was the picture right over here. It ended up in the ditch after this. So back to the article. When the RCMP arrived, the 5 continued to chant, "Jehovah, Jehovah," and refused to leave the vehicle, sometimes clinging to it or to each other. And the document reveals one of the teens believed police were monsters who would kill them. Police said the group displayed extreme strength. 2 were unaffected by pepper spray. The adults were also shot with tasers between 2 and 4 times before they relented. Wow. Wow. One adult even slid under the vehicle and had to be dragged out. The group seemed demonized and obviously not in their right minds. The victims later told the police. Wow. The adults who cannot be identified due to a publication ban each pleaded guilty to a charge of unlawful confinement. The mother also pleaded guilty to dangerous driving. Her 2 teenage daughters were not charged. A judge has ordered pre-sentence reports and risk assessments, which could include psychological testing. The 3 adults are scheduled to return to court for sentencing December 20th. So this still is not done. This whole group has been ordered to be risk assessments, psychological testing. They were thinking that these people are demonized, these Jehovah's Witnesses. And it's interesting, the scriptures we read, everything that is hidden will be revealed. Everything that is hidden will be revealed. So there's a lot of us that have gotten out of the cult. And therefore, we are trying to help various countries. They call these kinds of cults religions. They're not religions. They should not be classified with charity with other religions. That's our petition. And because of discrimination, I've experienced much discrimination from this organization within and outside. And so we have a petition up to stop discrimination. And part of the problem is they discriminate minors. And it's really not fair to the minor. So that's it for local news for Jehovah's Witnesses in my area. But let's look in on Jehovah's Witnesses at headquarters. Well, here's right from the JW News, right from JW.org themselves. On Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023, it was announced at World Headquarters that Brother Anthony Morris III is no longer serving as a member of the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses. So, yes, we're going to miss Anthony Morris III. Many of you probably have known him. Here's a few pictures of him. I just actually got to know him here lately. I do skits on my little program, and so we do a lot of research on the governing body. And these are all the members. So he looks like a nice guy. But one of the things that kind of caught him, he says things about apostates that are not kind, calling us maggots. This is one back here. Apostates are maggots. And they get caught up on that. And we're apostates. We're really bad. But all we are is people that have left the organization. We believe in God, but we just don't believe in the religion. So we're apostasy of the religion. Yes, I agree. And we don't want to be linked to people that are naked and hallucinogenic and classified as demonized, running around naked. We don't want to be part of that. None of us. So we're glad to be out. And but Tony, he's done. We don't know why he left, but he's gone. He did get caught with a bunch of alcohol. And that kind of didn't look good. So a lot of people assumed he had a drinking problem. Maybe it took 4 years to do that. Usually, when they deal with things, but again, these guys are the governing body. They're at the right hand of Christ. They're actually classified in the religion as angels. If you go back to some of my previous videos, elders are on the same note as angels, according to Revelation 1 and 20. Of 7 stars. So it's very hard for these guys to be deleted. And maybe he stepped aside, But anyways, what we want to say to Tony,